Hi. A lot of my friends have been asking me good questions about how my new heavy gauge knitting machine works, and it is the same generally as the standard gauge machine, but I thought I would go over this for folks who have never seen them because it is kind of niche, and to hopefully answer some of your questions about how it all starts. So this contraption here is how you basically thread the machine. I have this yarn in this box so it doesn't go down into the foyer. But basically, these are your tension discs. There are two of them. This yellow thing here is old wax. And you thread the yarn through the guides, and then you bring it down into this part of the carriage, which is where you do your threading. And on this machine, you have two holes for if you're using two colors like I did with this. And I'm getting ahead of myself, but this is the punch card that I used to create this pattern, which I was really happy with this. It's called Fair Isle. This carriage goes back and forth. This is the whole needle bed. I believe there are 114 needles on this one. They are spaced a lot farther apart than on the standard gauge, which there are 200 needles on the standard gauge machine, which I will show you. So this is a row counter that you can reset. It's a little tool bin. But this is kind of cool for those of you who are old enough to remember a Smith Corona typewriter. You put this punch card into this little, it's like you would put paper in a typewriter, and it tells the needles all the way down the bed what to do and when to do it, basically. And to me, it's kind of a marvel, and this is all pretty foreign to me. This is a little tool bin for things that you're going to use a lot for transferring yarn. And this is a little accessory compartment here. I made this swatch and this swatch. Both of these involved manually changing the yarn every time you wanted to change the color. But the instructions on the punch card for this one tell you that every 2 rows you're supposed to switch colors. So these things here actually go to the ribber, which is on the floor over here. This is hopefully not the permanent setup. And by the way, this machine is like circa 1980s, very early 80s. But this is the ribber attachment. If you look at the cuffs of your sweaters and the hem, the bottom hem around your hip of your sweaters, that's kind of what might be used to form that. And then, sorry about this, but this is the guest room. It has been totally taken over by quilting. I no longer have room for guests. So anyway, but these used to be the base for my cutting table, which I will get to in a moment, but they had to be moved in here. This is the standard gauge machine, and I have a sample swatch. I was just trying to do something really wide here, but you can see the difference in the yarn. It's really fine. But this machine has been completely serviced, cleaned, refurbished by my husband. This is earlier. This is like 1970s, early to mid 70s, this machine. So it is similar in terms of the way it operates. This is the carriage that would go back and forth across these needles. And if you can see, these needles are smaller, the hooks are smaller, and they're a lot closer together. So you're looking at finer gauge yarns for this. They both have a place. You could do socks and like summer weight sweaters and tanks and things like that. Even scarves, something light on a machine like this, whereas you're going to use a bulkier knit Look, I need to categorize these scraps. You know I don't like to throw anything away. So this table here, typically I would have this up against this wall, but I'm using it right now. We don't know where any of this is going to permanently live exactly. And you can see I'm still in disarray up here. But last weekend, the upper cabinets, the top three, and I started putting some of the other yarn away. I have inherited a whole lot of yarn. I think some of you have seen that. And I'm not gonna have all of it be able to be in here. So I'm not sure what is going to happen with that. But this is generally my long arm room, and this doesn't go anywhere and it's staying where it is. And I have a ball winder over here, and my new yarns from Knit Picks. These are all cottons and linen, cotton linen blend, as well as just pure cotton. I'm aiming to make some dish towels out of that. And then these are parts to the one cabinet. I forgot to show. We were missing parts to that last cabinet, so that is going to get fixed when the new parts come back in. And then instead of the base that I used to have that I showed you for cutting, this is my new table. This is a Martelli sensational table. This thing moves at all kinds of different angles, and it raises and lowers. I don't know if I can show you that with one hand. Hang on. I realized that I glossed over this carriage. This has a lot to do with your stitch formation. This dial is going to essentially tell you how close together your rows are going to be, especially if you're using a punch card. This is all predetermined in terms of how far apart, side to side, your stitches are going to be. To form a pattern like this, it needs to be static in terms of, you know, how close these are together. But the rows vertically, how tight they are, is determined by this dial. And it's also determined by the weight of the yarn that you're using. This is really a mid-weight worsted wool. Nothing to, or not, I'm sorry, this is acrylic. This is some of the practice yarn that I inherited. So this isn't really heavy stuff here, but I was just using it to create my test pieces. So all of these words mean different kinds of stitch formations, and this dial also factors into your stitch formation. So I'm sorry I glossed over that. I still don't even know what this means. I need to look that up. But that's an essential part of setting the size of your stitches. And I did some adjustments while I was stitching on this. You can see, if you look closely, I go from smaller to bigger, and this didn't involve a punch card. So you have more flexibility, but a whole lot less precision in my case if you're not using a punch card. Okay, you're gonna get a much better demonstration of this table if you go to Martelli's YouTube channel. Dave Martelli, the owner of the company, does a much better job than I'm about to do showing you what this table will and will not do. But basically, I don't know if you can even discern that. That one side is going down. Whoop, I don't have the wheels locked. Okay, so basically, this is on an uphill slant now, so if you're cutting, it makes it easier. You're bending less. I'm getting older. That's kind of why we ended up with this table, and I have the storage bins underneath. And the big mat for this was on back order. He's stuck in the ports with tariffs and stuff, so I don't know if you can really see. Now it's lowering. So this side is coming up. At least it was. Oh, okay. This is tilting now this way, like a drafter's table. So you can basically manipulate this table. It has 4 actuators. So basically that means each leg of the table can be moved up or down in order to create whatever angle, working angle is most comfortable. So you can also sew on this table. There are non-slip things that you can put on here that will keep your machine still and not like fall off if for some reason you wanted to sew from that angle, which I don't know why you would want that much of an angle, but you know, it depends on what you're doing. So the table comes with some accessories. It's a great rotary cutter that they put out. So that was the change in here. So everything has kind of happened at the same time, which is why I'm all topsy-turvy, and it is hard for me to operate because I'm somebody who needs a lot of order in order to be effective. But this is, the other machine looks just like this in terms of the threading. And I'm hoping that's giving you a sense of the size. I think this is about 4 feet long, but I'm not sure. So I hope that helps a little bit, but if you have any other questions for me, understand that I'm super new, but I'll do my best to answer your questions.